Part 2 of Connie's color analysis. If you missed part 1, you can go back to my last video. And in the last video, I asked you all to give me your thoughts on whether step 1 of cool versus warm for Connie landed at cool or warm being better. And many of you saw what I saw, which is the warm side being better. And if you missed getting the warm side, perhaps going back to my videos on going through the color analysis checks may assist. On the right side, which is the warm side here, harmony is achieved. Over here is disharmony. When you're doing an in-person color analysis, there's a lot of visual distraction. The background in some cases, in this picture, you can see the background is cluttered. And so you really have to focus on the checks and rule out of your eyesight everything else, which sometimes can be difficult, and perhaps the client's face shifts as you're flipping fabrics and what have you. So you have to account for all of that as well when you're moving through visuals in in-person analysis. Usually though, the professional is standing behind the client, and the professional is usually wearing white, which helps minimize visual background distraction, because there's a mirror in front of the client. Analyst is standing behind the client draped in white, so there's minimal disruption, but you really have to learn to focus on particular areas of the face and the jawline as you're moving through the process. Perhaps seeing it this way may help. Can you see the disconnection on the cool side with the jawline, where versus on the warm side there's better connection and lift? Now her face in these pictures was positioned slightly differently, so you're really just looking past the face positioning and really just looking in general at a lift. Is your eyes dragged down by the color, or are they lifted up by the color to look more at her jawline and face? So that's just one example of one of the checks. You can go back and practice on your own on the other checks. There's a look again at the cool pink versus warm orange. The harmony is on the warm side. Now that was only 2 colors. And so in color analysis, I like to compare at least 5 colors before I make a decision. And so perhaps seeing these other colors may help. I don't have the in-person fabrics for these other colors. I didn't get footage on them with Connie, but here's a look at warm green versus a cool blue, warm red versus a cool red, and cool purple versus a warm yellow. Those would be the additional colors tested in step 1. Perhaps even seeing it this way may help. So the top of this screen are the warm palettes, the bottom of this screen are the cool palettes. Can you see that the top palettes are better than the bottom palettes? Here's another set of colors with that same setup. Warm on the top, so spring, autumn, summer, winter, and the warmer palettes win over the bottom palettes. And then here's another look at that. Because Connie leans warm in step 2, what was looked at were the warm home seasons, spring versus autumn, and I will go through those in more detail in the next video, but here's a preview. Here's a spring green on the left here on Connie versus an autumn green on the right. Share some initial thoughts on where you think she landed. Comment below, I'd love to hear from you.